Hey friends, Jay Online here. Today I decide to play a Terra Solo game. Is it terrible? Not really. Here are the match highlights. I start with the 3, Monolith, in order to clear with Terra's cleave basic attacks granted by her passive, and in order to have the 1-3 combo at level 2 to clear waves with. You can use Terra's juicy cleave basic attacks to clear the starting blue camp easily. If you use it 5 seconds in game time, you will have the ability back up by the time you finish doing the camp. Make sure to punch the minions in a way that groups them up rather than splitting them. I messed this up at level 1 and lost out on some valuable cleave uptime. My lane opponent was kind of a scaredy cat this game, so was able to go get his camps frequently. Usually you will have to pressure them out for this, but this time they made me an offer I could not refuse. Terra's 2, the walls, are good at out-securing small objectives like the blue camp. I failed to do so in this match, but if used correctly, you either secure the camp or, if done a bit too early, get a stun on the opponent which leads to you securing the camp anyway. Very useful. As for the build, I went with Vamp Shroud for sustained power and physical protections, straight into a Warlock Staff for extra power and health. Power translates into clear and pressure, but also into healing. I went into some physical defense bruiser items after the Warlock Staff, as the opposing team had 4 physical characters. Jade Emperors is good in this case, and Lotus Crown is always good on healers to keep your team alive. Cooldowns are also good, but you get 10% from blue buff and 20 if it's enhanced, which in my opinion is plenty. Unfortunately, an opponent disconnected at about 18 minutes, which is a shame, but we were already ahead on XP and gold at the time. So I give my verdict up to that point. It's not bad. The clear is fine if not good from level 2. You have self-sustain with a 3 and it gets enhanced with power, and by late game you provide a ton of team fight value with your ultimate. Now for the complete match. Alright, and now here we are in the rest of the game, unscripted, unedited, from start to finish. And right as we position ourselves in the blue buff to start our solo Terra gameplay, we're being offered some macaroni and cheese, and also pizza, already setting a good mood with the team, which is always nice. I would offer them some food if I could write on the Switch, but unfortunately we can't use the virtual keyboard. Here I used the Monolith because I figured if I use it I can have a longer uptime on the basic attacks with the cleave. And if you just use it at 5 seconds into the game when doing the blue buff, you will have it back up as you finish. So now I have it for the wave. I also have the blue buff, so all my mana recovers. Usually Terra is pretty mana hungry. However, this is kind of mitigated by doing the blue buff and being in the solo lane in general as a consequence. Here I messed up the clear a little bit. If I were to punch them into one direction and then another, then they would have stayed more grouped. But because I kept punching them into one direction, they all spread out, which makes the cleave useless because now they stand too far from each other. The damage won't splash from one to the next. After this wave we reach level 2, and I get my dash, the Terra 1 ability, because then I can do this clearing combo, which is use the Monolith behind the melees but before the archers, and then punch the melees a little so that when you dash you can, in a single dash, go through the melees, the Monolith and the archers. Then you turn around, punch the archers, and you dash again. This is really useful for clear. It's worth mentioning that usually you will get more fight over this clear. I really have no idea why this Chuck is playing so scared. I'm more confident in him than he is in this point. Feels like I stole his lunch money or something. Anyways, I use the same combo over and over to clear the wave. I think for level 2 clear it's pretty nice. I know that the meta right now is to rush Golden Blade on some physical character, either warrior or assassin, but honestly, with Terra you can just activate one of your stones to have the clear, and you get it from level 1, so it's pretty competitive if you're doing it in this way. Now because the Chalk is so scaredy, I'm actually walking straight into his jungle and stealing his camp. This is before any of our blues are back up, so I figure this would be a wise way to invest my time while the wave is away. Of course, if you're doing well and you're feeling confident, you can also directly after doing the wave, you can go proxy the next wave. The abilities will probably be up by then. That would be a smart move because then I get more time to just wander around, either rotate or do some other jungle camps. But seeing as the blue is up, I'm going to start doing the blue again. It's important to keep the blue buff to sustain your stay in the lane mana-wise. Here I decide to only use the stones, because while you get the cleave from them, but it's for a shorter amount of time, and you also slam them on the blue buff minion, now I get to have the rest of my abilities for the wave. At first I decide to invest my points into the dash, because I think this is one of the most consistent ways to deal damage. Like, the dash in itself is not the good ability, you really want the other abilities to hit, but the dash is the easiest one to confirm double damage on. If you can hit your opponent right in the middle of the two walls, of the Terra walls, then you can also proc double damage pretty consistently on it. But since people know how to juke, I find it to be less consistent than double dashing through them. So I clear the wave, I go back to the totem, I start punching it and slam the walls on it, and I provide my team with some mana. And it's looking so far so good, honestly. I check some items, everything seems to be very standard. Chuck is playing scaredy, as usual. Hits the axe, or maybe not. It takes him a very long time to clear. I find this unusual, because usually warriors right now, if they rush Golden Blade, they have a frankly pretty easy time to clear the wave. But I guess this guy is oblivious to it. By the way, while I do this camp, another quick disclaimer, this isn't like ranked, this isn't professional, this isn't anything, this is just me ranting about stuff that I like to do in Smite. So if you also like Terra, I recommend that you play her in solo just for fun, because I had a ton of fun doing this. It being viable in a ranked setting is not something I vouch for. But like I said, it's fun nonetheless, and at the end of the game, I mean at the end of the day it's a game, so just try to do something that's most fun and rewarding for yourself. I generally don't play much ranked in Smite, though I would love to, because I play on the Nintendo Switch, and I feel like it put my team at a huge disadvantage if I were to join ranked games. We just got into a point where the Switch version of the game runs somewhat smoothly. Before, it used to crash consistently in the Conquest game mode. It doesn't do that quite as often anymore, but I still feel like it could happen at any moment, therefore I don't want to steal the team's elo. And I'm aware that you can, you know, if only one person leaves the game, gets a disconnect or something, then the rest of the team doesn't get the elo loss, but I think that's only if it happens at the start of the match, and with the stability of the Switch version being what it is, it could happen at any point, so I'll just forfeit this game mode until I find it to be more suitable. So I head back into the base and come back with a freshly forged Warlock Staff, which in my opinion is a good item to get on practically any Guardian you'll play in the solo lane, but specifically Terra, because unlike other Guardians, Terra's kit also benefits a lot from power. While if you think of a Geb or a Kepri or something like that, you mainly get damage if you get power. With Terra, it's not only damage, it's also a heal. Her heal, both the ultimate and the monolith, scale off of power, so having an item that gets you a lot of power in the beginning is actually pretty good. If I were a bit quicker here with my monolith, then the knock-up from Chalk would have been immune, but yeah, it was quicker. I'm still quicker with clearing the wave though, so practically we just trade ultimates. Right now the team is ahead on the gold but behind on the kills, which means we're just farming a bit more efficient, and at the end of the day, with the meta being what it is, it's more important to get to the late game in a better condition than to get all the early kills. There's not much snowballing going around anymore. I go to Chalk's back camps and I steal him. This removes valuable sources of XP and gold from either him or his jungler, but unfortunately I took too long to do this because I'm now losing minions to the tower. And in case you don't know, you still get XP from losing minions to tower, but if the tower got even one shot on that minion, then you're getting considerably less gold, which always makes it attractive to clear the wave before it gets into the tower's range. Or at the very least, if the minions do get into the tower's range, try to clear out the minions that haven't been shot by the tower. I'm now back in the totem. It takes a bit longer to clear, but thanks to the power I'm accumulating through the Warlock Staff, I'm able to keep up somehow. Now you can see that with a double dash, clearing these camps doesn't take very long. The only issue is you can't just double dash, in case you didn't know. Terra's dash is a single dash, but you can only dash again if you break one of her stones with the first dash. So you will always need to give 2 abilities to get the full value out of a double dash. Which if you were leveling the walls, then you wouldn't need to. Here I tried to out-secure Chalk on his blue camp, but I was too late to get there. So he actually managed to get it. I mentioned this in the highlights, but if you can time it correctly, you should aim maybe for a little bit of an early secure, because if you fail to get the last hit on the camp, you can at the very least stun your opponent who's currently doing it, especially if it's a melee champion. Like if you have a hunter in the soul ring as an opponent, then maybe it's not as valid, but somebody like a Chalk or an assassin or a warrior in general, they will always stand next to the camp. So if you don't get the secure, you at least get the stun, and then you can proceed to get the secure with some other ability. Arachne rotating to help me do the blue camp, very much appreciated. And we're maybe looking to get a gank on the Chalk now, as he is here in the middle. And if you're ganking a Chalk, it's very important to pay attention to the axe, because he always has the option of either running away or teleporting to where he threw his axe. In this case, he decides to stay. I get the stun off, but it's not quite enough damage to finish. I decide to chase, punch, dash. Arachne gets the kill. Now, fortunately, I am very low on health, and Gilgamesh just came in to clean me up. So we kind of traded. Each of our junglers got a kill on our solo laners. I ponder what item should I get next, and seeing as all of my opponents except for the Morgana, sorry, not Morgana, I always confuse the names. Seeing as all the opponents except for the Morrigan are physical characters, I decide to go into physical bruiser items. I think that Lotus Crown is always going to be valuable on Terra, maybe except for a role where you have to go full damage all the time, like if you're playing Terra mid or Terra jungle for some reason. But if you're able to afford some protections, I think that Lotus Crown is amazing, because Lotus Crown gives you MP5, which is very huge on Terra if you don't get blue buff. And it gives sweet protections to the rest of your team. It gives them more than Thebes gives, but it's conditional. They only get them if they get healed. But if you play Terra and a team fight correctly, you're aiming to hit all of your teammates with a Terra ultimate, which will heal them, which will give them extra protections, so it's good. In this game, however, I decided to go for a Jade Emperor's Helm first, because they have a ton of physical characters and they all use physical power, and the passive of Jade Emperors reduces physical power, so I decided to go for it. I get another totem, and now Chalk is playing less scared. I guess he got some damage items online at this point, but also a magical defense item, because I really don't do much damage to him anymore. Wave has been cleared. I want to help myself to some more of his camps, but I decide to turn around because of the Shibalanki ultimate. I wouldn't know if I was running into Gilgamesh again, and I would have been ganked. So just stay back and I clear another wave. Chalk is using his ultimate. I can't use the double dash because I'm silenced by the Chak ult. That's fine. I still had a few seconds on my cleave, and I get the stun off, so all in all, he didn't get crazy value out of his ultimate. He just did some damage, which I can probably sustain up if I decide to ult myself. Here I go back and I decide to do this experienced Naga camp. Honestly, in hindsight, I think it would have been way better to go immediately for the blue camp, because that one is worth the buff at least. It would give me cooldown reduction and more mana over time. So now I do the full combo and I hit every single minion with a dash twice, and as you can see, it clears super fast. So clear-wise, this Terra Solo situation isn't really a problem at all. Maybe if you get out-pressured because your opponent is playing more aggressive, but as previously stated, this isn't the case in this game. Use the Terra clear to the cleaves to get rid of the side minions, collect the blue buff. At this point I have a lot of money in my bank account. I'm looking to invest it in something, maybe get out a mortgage. I focus on clearing the archers before the melee minions because, also as previously stated, they haven't been shot by the tower yet, and therefore they're worth more gold. Chuck is again being a bit scared, so I capitalize on this. Instead of using the dash, I keep the dash, and I clear the minions with cleave basics. Try the last hit, failed considerably. The reason to last hit minions, in case you're not aware, is because if you get the last hit on a minion, you get a little bit of extra gold. It's not as crazy as it is in other MOBAs. I don't know myself because I only played Smite, but I hear that in other MOBAs if you don't get the last hit on the minion, you're practically not getting anything, so it's very extreme. Here you would get a lot if you just kill the minion without last hitting, but you get more if you last hit. Totem cleared, and now that I have this much money, I'm going back to get a Jade Emperor's crown, as well as starting to work on a Lotus crown, which are both going to be very good in this match. And I decide to go for a horrific emblem. It will complement my heavenly wings pretty good. One of the weaknesses of Terra's ultimate is it's kind of an ultimate where if a team fight is initiated and you push the button, it just turns the odds in your favor. Usually, the enemies take more damage, you take less damage, your team has a heal, the enemy has a damage proc effect, and the enemy team can just decide to disengage. If they're not feeling like taking you head on at this point, they use mobility to get away, they use movement speed to get away, they use whatever. So it's kind of a drawback if you use your ultimate and they decide to not take the team fight anymore. Even if they give up something valuable, it's sometimes useful to just stay alive. If you use Heavenly Wings, you're better off chasing them. You can also save teammates in other situations. And if you use Horrific Emblem, you prevent them from running away as well. It's a good relic to combo with Terra's ultimate specifically.
Enemy missing left.
It's also useful in other situations when you can peel for your teammates. If you put yourself between the chasing enemies and your teammates and you use it, it's quite good. If you've been able to tell, I switched my leveling priority in the middle of the game because it got to a point where I feel like I already cleared the wave well enough with the dash, with the double dash, and it has enough power where it already scales well. So I decided to put some more points into the 2. And the reason for that is the 2 is the ability where you can double proc for damage. You don't need to activate any other abilities. If I wanted to double dash, I would at least need to also activate the 2 or the 3 to get the stones to smash. Otherwise, no double dash. That rhyme was not intended. So we are just playing dumb with Chuck. I don't know why we were fighting each other. It's like super pointless in the solo lane. We'd both be better off just going to farm either the camps or proxying the wave. Definitely something to keep in mind next time I play this. But I'm clearing fast, so I'm going up to his camps and seeing what I can get. Here I help myself to his blue buff. Would have been better to do the wave first. But, as you can see, if I were to use my dash and the monolith for the wave, then I would have cleared it super fast and I could just do this one leisurely. Now I see that my Raijin is tangoing with Chalk, so I show up and try to help. I use the ultimate, root him in place, stun, another dash. I hope it's enough. We're either gonna have to chase tower or give up the kill, but yeah, we're going under the tower's range. Luckily we have a minion wave pushing in. Raijin decides to stay behind and take the tower, so I'm going to stay with him. I think it will be way more valuable to stick by your team and get something accomplished properly than to chase after a kill, even though kills are fun and valuable. But we got a tower, and that's nice, and I'll let him know that he's done a great job. Now we're gonna have to see what we can get from this. Gilgamesh is coming in. His kick did nothing. I don't know if he hit me with a passive or if he just straight up missed, but it did nothing. And now he put himself in a bad position, so Raijin can punish him. As you can see, Raijin does a ton of damage at this point, so sticking by him is usually a good idea at this time. I let the team know that I think we can do the Pyromancer, but yeah, our Amuzen Cub prefers to do a Scorpion, so I help him do that instead. You can use these Terra walls like that for some kind of clear because it's pretty good. Here the rest of the team is agreeing with me that we should do the Pyromancer. It's a good medium-sized objective we can do now to press our advantage. We're already ahead on kills and gold. so we can help ourselves to this objective, and if the enemy team suddenly groups up to contest us, we can just turn around and fight them. I believe we would have a big advantage in a team fight right now. We help ourselves to another Scorpion, and I go collect some chalices so that we get a trebuchet eventually. Now this time, if I clear the blue camp, it's been enhanced. Because we did the Scorpion, it's also going to provide 10% extra cooldown reduction, so instead of just 10 it provides 20, which on Terra is a big deal. Now unfortunately, the opponent disconnected. I think it was the Gilgamesh player. So all in all, I would say this is where the game really ended, because unfortunately it's just not a fair game anymore with a 4v5. And if I consider how it went up to this point, it was doable. Like, you can safely do this build with Terra in the solo lane in at least casuals. I don't think anybody would flame you for it. You're doing decent clear, you're providing support for your team where it's needed, but you're also very independent in the solo lane, so have at it. I'm gonna let the rest of the game play out though, just in case. See some more nice Terra tricks and clears. As you can see here, Chalk is trying to get my tower, but I fail in stunning him. If I were to get the stun here, maybe I'd get another 1 or 2 tower shots, so that would be massive for damage. But he is very tanky, so he has a lot of health now, and the chase would not necessarily result in a kill. So I believe just clearing the wave and getting jungle stuff is going to be more valuable. I hear him doing the blue buff, and I try to outsecure again, but he uses his ultimate, so of course he gets the secure, and I was not able to stun him out of it. Chuck is immune to stuns, he's CC immune when he does his ultimate. Here we don't kill him, we just chase him away, but that's valuable in of its own, because now we can just help ourselves to all of this camps in the jungle. We get all the XP and all the gold, and we put it in our pockets and we run away with it. Now I do feel like we stole his lunch money. Maybe he saw the future before the match began. Our AMC wants to do the tower, which I think is a good call as long as we can guarantee that nobody's gonna come from the sides. So I decide to put a regular ward on the side. And I provide some healing in between wave times. But my monolith gets cancelled, unfortunately. The Morrigan knew to hit it 3 times and to cancel it. I help myself to a red buff now, because I think while cooldown reduction is nice, it's also nice to make your abilities count more. If you have extra power, you heal more and you do more damage. All around worth it. Now this is starting to get scary, because as you can see, there's only me and this Amuzen Cub here, but all of the enemy team is trying to group up and gang up on us in the middle lane, while the rest of our team is safely farming somewhere else, which is not a mistake, mind you. I think the team would get more experience overall if we spread out and get the resources individually, but if we're being ganged up on, it's kind of scary. So let my team know I'm going back into my own lane. Have fun. There's more farming to be had. Team is way ahead on the levels, and it would be foolish to give up farming outright, because there's some more levels to be had. We're not level 20 quite yet. There's still some more items that we need to buy. So I try to clear conservatively here, just because blowing my whole kit on this one wave would mean that the next wave, which is about to... we just talked about them, and here they are. We wouldn't have any abilities to clear them with. So now I'm gonna group them up, punches, double dash, and it's cleared. Horus would like us to get in the ult, but he's talking to the rest of the team, very far away. I help myself to another Naga camp from Chalk. That's more XP that's going in my way, that could have been his. Here I'm trying to outclear him again, but Chalk will defend this with his life. I don't get the secure. However, this is like the second time this Chalk uses ultimate just to outsecure blue camp, so in my book that's kind of a win, because now he doesn't get it in case a big team fight would break out. And like right on cue, Raijin decides to show up and mess him up. I give him the blessing, the ultimate, I also pop my horrific. Just try to guarantee that this Raijin can mess this Chalk up something fierce. I don't chase that far though, because I think it's also important to get the tower down and to see that the minions don't get cleared in case one enemy decides to rotate. Here's the Morrigan, I get a stun off. Raijin has a huge follow-up on this, and this is probably a dead... Yeah, it's a dead Morrigan. This Raijin has been a real team asset this match. Now we can try to get the Phoenix. I drop my Monolith in the middle because this is where I assumed the team would stand if they're trying to get the tower, and Monolith healing is actually quite considerable right now. Even though in hindsight I now realize that Chalk has Pestilence, but you know, it's still valuable. This is probably where I die because I was in too deep. But to be fair, I have a lot of damage mitigations from that enemy team. Morrigan was dead and I'm full on physical protections, and that's all we needed. To be fair, since the Gilgamesh disconnected, this has been super one-sided, but we were already kind of ahead before. So yeah, there you go, Terra Solo. Would recommend. There's the builds, and there's the stats. Take care everybody, stay grounded.